intended to motivate the teaching faculty who are actually responsible for making of the future generation. So today, continuing the saga with stalwarts like Jayakrishnan Kumar sir, Sri Krishna Sharma Khandel sir, Vasudevan Nambudiri sir, Dr. L. Mahadevan sir, Dr. Srija Sugeshan sir, Dr. Murli K, Dr. Srinivasa Acharya, Dr. Antonio Moranti, Dr. Ram Manohar, etc. We today come to the 12th session of Gurumugham series. So we are very happy to once again host the Gurumugham series, and we are also at present trying to wind up the series with this session, the 12th session. So today will be the last online session of the Gurumugham series, which had been continuing for last 3 months. So hopefully to motivate the teaching faculty to understand and deliberate the basic methodology that we could incorporate in teaching and learning Ayurveda, so that we can improve our methodology to a greater extent. I think this was basically the intent behind designing of this series, wherein senior faculties with wanted experience were with us, sharing their thoughts and their advices to the new generation teachers who are actually the intended audience. So we begin today's session to begin with praying the Almighty, showering all the blessings to us even in these challenging times. May I call upon our Assistant Professor from Department of Samhita Siddhanta, Dr. Rajkumar, for the prayer. Rajkumar, please.
अशेषकाय प्रसृदानशेषा औत्सुक्यमोहारधिकाञ्जकान् योगोऽविद्याय नमोऽस्तु तस्मै नमामि धन्वन्तरिमादिदेवम् सुरासुरैर्वन्दितपादपद्मम् लोके जरारुभय मृत्युनाशम् दातारमीशं विविधौषधीना सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति.
Thank you, Dr. Rajkumar. So we begin today's Gurumugham series. Today we have a very gentle, knowledgeable, great academician with a long history of clinical experience, Dr. K.T. Jayakrishnan sir. So the best person to speak about him definitely would be his students. There is no doubt about that. So we have one of such students of him with us, who is also our medical superintendent at Ashtamgam Ayurveda Vidyapeetham and the head department of Shalya Tantra, Dr. Purushottaman Nambudiri. I call upon Dr. Purushothaman Nambudiri for the welcome address. Sir, please.
Thank you. Namaskaram to all. Am I audible?
You are audible, sir.
Okay, thank you. Am I clear?
Yeah, you are audible, sir, and clear. No problem.
Okay. Today I'm very happy because today my teacher is giving the class. So I'm really happy and proud. It's my privilege and pride to introduce my today's chief guest, Dr. Jayakrishnan sir, our JK sir. Usually we call him as our JK sir. I would like to introduce him without saying the positions he had in the past. I would like to say with one word, the real role model for the young Vaidyas. This is the best way I can introduce him because he is the very best role model for all the young Vaidyas. Because after completing the BAM from the Kottakkal, he started his teaching. He started as a teaching and also started as a clinical practice and started in Coimbatore and then switch over to the Jayendra Saraswati, Chennai. I was very lucky to learn the basics from him. In the first year, he was teaching us the basics. Of course, in the next years, he was teaching the Chikilsa. I was really attracted to him with the clarity he is having in the Shastra. When he is saying something, he is very sure about what he is saying. And other than that, the real thing what we all the students of JKSR was attracted was he was a very good clinician with very minimal medicines and very minimal procedures or therapies used to treat the patients. That was a very excellent clinicians. No doubt, he is a excellent teacher too. I have learned many things from him during the time of studies, and the young generations of teachers and clinicians. We all try to mimic him, or we were trying to what they were doing. Actually, I have learned the importance of Gandharvastadi Kashayam from him. The in his most of the prescription, we used to see the Gandharvastadi Kashayam, and in many times we say that if JKSR prescription is coming, definitely there will be Gandharvastadi Kashayam in the initial phase. But when we are talking about the importance of Gandharvastadi Kashayam, it is amazing the explanation what Sir was giving. And of course, in today my clinical practice, the Gandharvastadi Kashayam become one of my favorite yoga also. And there are many things to remember him. And once again, I thank the organizers to giving an opportunity to introduce our sir, Jayakrishnan sir. I welcome you, sir, for the function. I, with my wholehearted pranams to you. I don't want to extend my speech because everyone is eagerly waiting for the class. So I am concluding this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dr.
Remy.
Gurumugham. Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for the welcome address. So may I call upon our principal, sir, Dr. Alatiyur Narayanan Nambi, sir, who is always a source of support and inspiration to all of us over here for the presidential address. Nambi, sir, please. I think there is some technical issues with Nambi sir's this thing. So maybe before we get in again contact with Nambi sir, we have Dr. Gigi Matthew sir, who is Vice Principal, Associate Professor of Rasa Shastram Vaishya Kalpana of PNNM Ayurveda College, a dynamic Vice Principal of one of the dynamic colleges in Kerala. I call upon Dr. Gigi Matthew sir as a representative of FACTO for the felicitation. Sir, please.
Is it audible?
Yeah, you're audible, sir. You're audible.
Thank you, Dr. Ramya. Respected Chair, Principal Dr. Alatiyur Narayanan Nambi, today's presenter Dr. K.T. Jayakrishnan sir, FACTO State President Dr. Rahul R. Nair, Dr. Purushothaman Nambudri, and all other dignitaries, doctors, and students who are listening to this seminar. A warm good afternoon to all of you. It's a great pleasure to be in this webinar, Gurumugham, jointly organized by Ashtamgam Ayurveda Chikitsalayam and Vidyapitham and FACTO. I also consider this as a privilege and honor to speak a few words in this session. I wholeheartedly appreciate the team Ashtamgam led by Dr. Nambi for the pain taken in dissemination of knowledge. Today's topic is learning methodology in Ayurveda, the relevance of a holistic approach. I consider this as the most relevant topic which every Ayurvedist should carefully study and practice. I congratulate the organizers because they have chosen the best person to deliver this topic, Professor Dr. K.T. Jayakrishnan sir. I am so lucky that I have worked with him for a certain period at Kerala Ayurveda Samajam, Chennai. He is a good academician, wonderful clinician, orator, and personally a good human being. Once again, I convey my best regards personally and on behalf of PNNM Ayurveda Medical College and FACTO to Ashtanga Vidyapitham and FACTO State Committee for organizing such a beautiful webinar. I also extend the support of my institution in your future ventures. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gigi, sir. Thank you for the very short and smart felicitation. May I call upon our principal, sir, Dr. Narayanan Nambi, sir, for the presidential address. Sir, please.
First of all, I deeply regret my inconvenience happened in between due to the technical error happened in my system. It's a great pleasure and honor to hear again another stalwart, Dr. Jayakrishnan sir. As Dr. Ramya rightly mentioned, we have started Gurumugham 2 months back. So we consecutively, we had 12 sessions of continuous 12 sessions of Gurumugham with the stalwarts, not less than 20 years of teaching clinical experiences in the field of Ayurveda. And definitely, as we all know, that such stalwarts who is in the field of Ayurveda can really inspire all teachers at this difficult moment to keep the momentum in teaching, and they can give a lot of inputs, especially how to communicate, how to teach efficiently because of their long experiences. Since the time is already late, I don't extend my words more. So thank you once again, and I'm very happy to see Jayakrishnan sir again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Nambi sir. So I think in the audience we have very senior physicians with us too, Dr. Bhaskaran PP, who was the ex-principal of Parshnikadu Ayurveda College, Dr. Vinod Kumar sir, Professor Department of Panchakarma, Government Ayurveda College, Trivandrum, and many teachers across country, even people who are outside Kerala. So I'm sure we will be having a fruitful discussion which would motivate each and every participant as a teacher to become a better academician and deliver Ayurveda in a better way to the next generation once we listen to Jayakrishnan sir. So JK sir, as his students call him, we are extremely happy to have you with us, sir. With all love, respect, I invite you for the session, sir. You may continue. Sir, thank you.
Thank you. Is it audible? Clear?
Yeah, sir, you're audible.
Gurumugham Namaha. I first of all express my gratitude for having invited me again to address the teachers regarding the learning methodologies in Ayurveda.
Sir, excuse me, sir. A slight disturbance is there, sir. Voice is breaking and a slight disturbance is there.
Slight disturbance. Is that audible now?
You're audible, sir. But the thing is, voice is breaking, sir. Not continuous.
Voice is breaking.
I think some contact in the pin, and if you could keep the speaker near probably of the earphone. No, now it's not audible, sir. Illa. No, sir.
It's not audible.
Now it's okay.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello, is that audible?
So, a pin on the maatite samsarikyo, sir? No. I mean,
Is it audible?
Now it is better, sir.
Now it's better.
Yeah, now it's better. There is some problem with pin probably, sir.
Yeah. Anyway, I have a low voice. If it is not audible, please remind me. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah, what I was mentioning is that I happened to visit Ashtamgam Vidyalaya way back in 1916 and to have interactive session with the faculties there at that time. So I'm very happy that I'm again invited to talk to the teachers. I'm well aware that I'm talking to the teachers, not to the students. So today's session, when I was initially contacted for talking, today's session, learning methodologies, or rather basic duty of a teacher, how to convince the students about this Ayurveda. This was the topic, so I happily accepted because this was a concern since I was a student way back in 79. I just take 2 minutes to explain my experience as a student and my experience as a teacher in the initial stages. So when I joined Kottakkal, of course, college known for Ayurveda. Most of the colleges in Kerala, Ayurveda system is active or very, very present because there is a big popularity among the public, or rather the public may be knowing better than doctors. Especially in Kottakkal and all the local public know Ayurveda better than the qualified people rather. Many medicines are so familiar, so you cannot escape without learning that basic modalities in Ayurveda, even though it is not convincing. Even especially when these Padatharyan kind of books were taken, since I joined Ayurveda college with a lot of expectations, at the same time I was the person who thought that the science is the real way to understand the whole intricacies of this book. From such a background, I joined Ayurveda and I suffered too much intellectually. That's what I was trying to convey. Because our basic education system is based on science. If somebody happens to be a strong believer in science and he happens to join a science like Ayurveda, you need extra clarity in teaching. Otherwise, you cannot do it. Especially subject like Padatha Vijnanam and all. It's not just Padatha Vijnanam, that is the biggest taboo. Even the first sloka of Ayurveda, Jayakrishnan, was not very convincing. As an individual, I don't say in general, as an individual, I never got convinced with these things. But I even thought of quitting the course because this was not very reasonable to me, learning something very bluntly. But we know that our system is almost like a blunt way of putting the books to the students, and then whoever is having audio is clear. Am I clear? Hello? Hello?
No, sir, still having some problem. Some disturbance is coming.
Audio is enough or is it
Still having problem.
hello?
You are now audible, sir. In between some issue. Now you are audible, sir.
I'm audible?
Now you are audible, sir. You may continue. In between, it got cut.
Okay. Now it's audible. Maybe I think I switched out to right? Maybe I think now it's better.
Okay. Yes, sir.
The way is that as a student, I had this problem of not being convinced about theories of Ayurveda, right from Raga Virogan. So in fact, I refused to become a teacher, but many of my teachers insisted. That's why I went and joined Coimbatore. Still, I had a problem that until I felt convinced, I was not ready to teach Ayurveda to the students. So I opted for anatomy as my basic subject, where you need to just teach what is directly seen. It's a physical knowledge. It can be directly dealt with. Then I try to gradually enter into the what is the deeper levels of Ayurveda. By second or third year of my teaching career, I got convinced, and then I started taking Ayurveda also in the sense that Nidanam, Chikitsa, fundamentals kind of subjects. I started taking that. So still, even as a teacher, even as a student, I think many of the Ayurvedic people will be having this issue. To my understanding, I think every batch of students, definitely you will be getting some 10% very intellectual students who cannot take things so lightly until and unless they are convinced with what the teacher is talking. They will not be very relaxed to receive these top subjects. So what I meant to say is I used to target those people who have a higher intellectual capacity, and I used to evaluate myself as to how far I have convinced those people. That was my uh, aim when I was a teacher. Of course, you cannot keep an ego when you are a teacher. No? You cannot keep ill will when you become a teacher. You must have an open mind to welcome all the students. Still, the highest level of teaching, you must be, I think, sharing with the way you learn a subject to a student. This is what I understood right from the beginning. Instead of putting the books to the students, you need to present the way you understand the subject, and that has to be the teaching basis for Ayurveda. Many reasons are there. Ayurveda is a Shastra, we know it's not a science. And there's nothing wrong in telling that it is different from science. Science is not that much old, and whereas Shastra is very, very old. Even though both are trying to understand the intricacies of this universe to which human beings belong. So the way you try to understand the universe from the physical plane to the subtle is a basic nature of science. Naturally, you need repeated evidence to understand what is what. Each level you need a physical evidence, and this methodology is directly visible when we teach anatomy, physiology, pathology kind of subjects. You get a direct, visible, convincing proof to say that something is working. So that is science. Whereas Shastra is slightly different, even though the aim is same matter would be explored from the plane of mind, not from the physical plane. Because physical plane is visible, can be directly experienced. So even you won't require sometimes a direct guidance. Straight you can take that knowledge from the direct plane, physical plane, with the help of sense organs. Whereas a deeper understanding of same matter, which you learn through the mental plane, that you need little more guidance from the experienced people. So Shastra is doing that kind of an exploration from the plane of mind. It also involves the direct physical knowledge, but more importance is given to the knowledge you make from the plane of mind. So that whatever knowledge you collect, it must be more deeper than what is expected. So physical knowledge is also continuing, and because you learn from the plane of mind, definitely you need a disciplined mode of learning, a disciplined atmosphere of learning for the intellectual sciences. So the most important thing is that a disciplined atmosphere is created in learning mechanism. That's why, olden days, all these kind of shastras were taught under the Gurumugham system, where you don't have distractions, so your focus is fully on what the teacher is talking about. And the methodology of thinking of the teacher, when you are very closely involved with the teacher, in those days you called as Guru, even now also we say Guru. So when you are closely associated with the Guru, or for that matter, a son with a father, you know the direct experience, among you also there are a lot of people with the traditions. So a son and the teacher, his father, or a daughter, father or mother, because of the intimacy, you understand how is the thought process of your father, very easy. So whatever shastras are there in India, all those things were still alive because of the traditional way of learning, where you learn the method of thinking of the teacher, not the subject. Method of thinking of the teacher, thought process of the teacher has to be gradually learned, so that you also create your own thought process. This is what is happening as far as the learning in Ayurveda is concerned. Still, it is relevant. I think it will be relevant forever also. Any subject which is deeper, intellectual, you need to learn this way. You know that even Western countries and all, now they started making it compulsory for the student to stay with the teacher in very higher level of learning, like PhDs. So it's not a question of time to for business. When you are continuously remaining with the teacher, you just gradually imbibe the way he is thinking. That is relevant even in chemistry, physics kind of subjects. Ayurveda kind of shastras, this is very much important. You in fact learn how a teacher is thinking. And this is, since the learning is happening through the mental plane, more than the physical evidence, it requires logic and reasoning to convince a subject. This is what is a basic requirement for getting a student convinced about what we are talking in Ayurveda. So for physical plane, it will be always a physical evidence to say that some theory is working. Whereas a mental plane will be always logics and reasoning to satisfy the mind that this is how it is working. And that is why it makes it more similar to mathematics. One reason, it is very similar to mathematics, or it is known as natural science according to the modern knowledge, where you can always ask a question of how, why, when, what. Whereas physical science, you can't ask these kind of questions. There are certain set of norms with which you need to just believe that this is like this. Whereas a natural science, always you can question why. And the answer will be based on a logic or a reason. That means that logic and reasoning are targeting your mental plane. So the moment we say Ayurveda, the moment we say Tridoshas and all, we are communicating the science through the plane of mind rather than the plane of our sense organs. Okay. Metaphysical mind, I always used to say, sense organs are the physical entities of an individual to get in touch with the external world, and my sense organs work only when the mind is connected to that. So a deeper understanding or a contemplation happens in the plane of mind. So when you learn from that plane, you in fact learn the deeper levels of the subject concept. So Ayurveda belongs to Shastra, slightly different from science, and the science is more physical in nature. You have natural sciences like mathematics or even physics or even physical chemistry and all, which shows that it's an extension of mathematics. There, this natural status can be conferred. That is one part. Second part I wanted to convey to you is that we all know this any medical course, most of the students join the medical course only to become a physician. That's my experience. When you join the course, you understand that you can treat diseases. And when somebody is cured of a disease, the amount of happiness, pleasure you derive out of it is beyond words. Because that is the kind of help you are giving, especially when you treat a major disease, when somebody is cured of it. That much of satisfaction, I don't know how you can derive from anywhere. So that's why medical field is considered to be very, very respected one. And of course, Ashtamgam, you know that. That is because disease is considered to be a big suffering, dukkam. So it has an impact to the entire planes of an individual. It's a negative experience. So somebody can take into the positive side. That is a great effort. And we know that disease also is a synonym as pagma. the total negativity of an individual also can be reflected in disease formation. So somebody can help him out of the disease. It's not the physical plane you are making it all right, and their individual you are taking to the positive side. So there you can have an immense pleasure derived out of this act. So most of the students would like to become a physician, and probably earlier when I was a student, all that was the only option. Now you have a lot of options. You can become teacher, you can become administrative staff, or even factories, qualified people. A lot of NGO activities people are involved. You have a lot of other options. Public health and all, without practicing, you can become many other officer posts, So your options are more nowadays. Still, I think people would like to become a physician if you are confident of handling this subject properly, because that is the most satisfying option. So this is where we need to be more focused. How far we are able to make it. So because this is the purpose of the course is defined, planned in such a way that initial stages of study, probably professions in the earlier time, when I was a student, it was 5-year course. Different times it changes. Still, your basic purpose is to study the normalcy of the body, study the functions of the normal body. If that is very much convinced, then you understand how this normalcy is disturbed or deviated to be known as a disease. So the second stage of study will be about the diseases. Diseases could be understood only if you are very convinced about what is a normalcy of the body. Okay. If normalcy is convincing, disease could be well comprehended. So that in the third stage of study, you will be thinking about how to manage the disease. So this is the basic mode of any kind of medical course. This is what is required. So in our course also there it was designed the same way, but we have a problem because we all come from the background of science, as I told you earlier. Up to +2, we are exposed to the way of science, scientific way of learning, scientific way of understanding things, or no other method is exposed to this. That is a setback when you enter a Shastra, which is different from a science. So it's a big drawback because you try to find out, you can see that when big people try to explain Vadapitta Kapha to a physical plane. Top people of India have done that. Like Vada is nervous system, even acetylcholine, Pitta is endocrinology, Kapha is lymphatics. It appears to be very, very attractive, very, very reasonable. You can make it convincing also sometimes. But when it comes to taking a Thaila, Sahajaradi or Dhanvantran Thailam, this theory cannot be interpreted or it is useless, rather we have to say. So our issue is to know whether you need the Sahajaradi Thailam, Dhanvantran Thailam, or if it is changed, on what basis you are doing it. This kind of theory is not taking you to anywhere. So any kind of medical course, just like if you just look at what happens in MBBS, they know very clearly what is anatomy, physiology. Because of that, they know what is happening in pathology. And combined together, they know what will be the overall management of the situation. We just come back to our course. To my experience, even though learning, teaching, everything has improvised a lot, most of the improvisation is connected to the technologies also. An average student become very alert only in the final year. Till then, it is a learning and going for examinations. It's not very alert because you don't feel that you are going for a clinical angle. Especially when you study first year, you don't feel that this is something clinical, you can do it in the final year. So something is connected to what you are going to do in the final year, treatment and all. As an independent subject, you learn Padartha Vijnanam and all, especially just after passing the exam, you forget about it. And since the fundamental understanding is not convinced, when you come to the Nidana category, none of the diseases are convincing to my understanding. We don't think that any of these diseases are giving a complete picture of what is going wrong, unless and until you get a supplementary knowledge of a Western science, because the basic theory is not 100% convinced. When you say all diseases, the 3 doshas are vitiated here and there, it makes a disease like this. All diseases, you say that. It is a half-baked knowledge we are conveying. So disease will not be 100% convinced. Then you enter the final year to study the Chikitsa. You become alert because you have to go out and you start treating. Naturally, you have to become alert. Then it's a question of studying mostly medicines. Medicines, treatments, modalities, panchakarma, all those things, whatever is available in the field, we focus too much on this kind of a learning. I'm not talking about the book. Book, I think a lot of people are familiar with the book. You go to North India and all, everybody will be chanting even Charakasam. But in practice, I think Ayurvedic element is very limited, or it is mixed up. Many reasons you can see for that. But still, what I say is I'm not talking about the book. I'm talking about whether I am convinced or not. This is an individual right. I've learned a subject, and whether I am convinced or not, whether I can utilize it in a sensible way to create a possible result. Whether I am doing a rightful work or a knowledgeable exercise when I treat a patient. This is the question of a physician. To that, how much we are contributing? This is my question. So I always used to say that before entering any subjects, whether it's a modern subject or any subject for that matter, you usually get an introduction to the subject. In our field, I think Ayurveda is rarely introduced. We just enter into Ragadi Raga. Ayurveda as a Shastra is never introduced properly. If you compare with anatomy and physiology, they can just enter into anatomy. By the way, I remember I was an anatomy teacher now. So I used to straight enter into Kaningams. There's no problem. Because you have been familiar with that methodology of thinking right from maybe 3rd or 4th standard schools. 5th standard onwards, nowadays you get all sciences, 7th, 8th, and all physics, chemistry, biology, everything is there. So these sciences are familiar to you. You don't question about that. You are not, you are 100% convinced about those kind of sciences as the reasonable or the righteous way of understanding. So you never question anatomy or physiology. The interesting fact is that, I also used to teach anatomy very, very sincerely. I'm not against any modern subject. So anatomy and all, we all know that brain, I used to take for 3 months. I conclude everything by one year and all. Then 3 months I used to take brain alone out of just interest. So we know very clearly, even still 40% of the brain is not understood. But an average person will think that we know a lot about brain. The reality is that brain still needs clarity in many, many areas. And when we learn this direct science, we easily think that we understood it. Attending a dissection and all, we think we understood it. Because there is a direct visible knowledge, we easily get into that because you are familiar with that method of learning. Whereas in Shastra, as I mentioned earlier, you have never been introduced, and for that purpose only these people introduce CCM and all introduce science and philosophies like Padartha Vigyan and all. It has become a big burden to the students because you start simultaneously all these things, learning Sanskrit or learning different philosophies, and then at the same time you start learning Ayurveda. This is just like, you enter anatomy or physiology without knowing what is physics, chemistry and all right from beginning. Then it becomes a big issue. So same way, we have never been introduced to Ayurveda, what you say, in a systematic manner. That is a big drawback. So this is the area where the teachers have to be little more clear, or little more, I think they need to spend more time to understand, to convince themselves, and then you can talk to the students. The issue is that without having a background of a little philosophy, I don't say everybody has to become a philosopher. We don't look at that. You must understand what is philosophy. Through that, what is that you are going to learn. It gives a methodology of how to observe the universe. Just like we say physics, solid, liquids, gases, ether make up the whole universe. And so we start with physics. Same way, before this physics and all came into existence, we had a method of learning how to look at this world. Through the physics and chemistry, you are proving that photons, movement of the photons are influenced by consciousness, awareness. They prove it. Then, even further you go deep, you go to the black hole theory and all, where you talk about yourself. Ultimately, we are trying to know what is there in the essential plane of a matter. So, when you reach the deepest level of that plane, where you feel, you experience the knowledge in the deepest plane of yourself. So it becomes one and the same. This is what we understand. This is rather well connected to what we call it as a Vedic way of understanding or ancient thought process in India. You think too much deeply about a matter, ultimately that knowledge of the matter is registered in the deepest plane of yourself, which is nothing but knowledge itself. Its identity is knowledge itself. That's why in Vedas and all they talk about Prajnana and Brahma. Brahma is it's not physical plane or is a spiritual, but that's not the correct word. It's a plane where the knowledge is registered whenever you indulge in any of your activities. It's a plane you feel the knowledge, you experience the knowledge. Knowledge or experience, synonymous. Wherever it is registered, that plane was identified those days. That is the ultimate level one can go. And from there, and this you come down to this physical plane of body or universe. That is what is considered to be the Sankhya way of understanding things. From there you are operating, you come to get connected to the physical plane and you experience the physical world. This is the actual meaning of a Sankhya kind of philosophy. So you have a maximum limit already explained in the pursuit of a knowledge. Somebody wants to know a matter 100%, you have to go to the deepest level of that matter through the mind, through the deep contemplation of mind. And that deepest level of that matter, knowledge in that level will be equal to what is your deepest level. So you are just applying beyond the mind and reaching a plane where you experience that matter fully, and that experience is knowledge itself. So we don't have to go into the details of that and all, it's more spiritual. But Vedas talks about that, what is absolute level. And that absolute level could be comprehended through the mind, then only it is convincing. So from the mental plane, how you conceive all these absolute real planes, those things are explained rather in Upanishad kind of things. Okay, somebody who is pursuing those things very deeply will have to go to these levels. So absolute realistic plane of the universe is explained. Realistic plane of individual is explained as Aham Brahmasmi, Brahmo Nitya, Prajnanam Brahma, Tattvamasi. In this, what we are concerned is your absolute plane, what we call as Aham, I, myself, is not directly visible. That's why it is Mithya, as if it is covered, unreal, as if it is unreal. That is Mithya, but it is real. That's why I say as if it is unreal. And how do you experience it? Prajnanam Brahma, whenever you get a knowledge, you're happy. That is Prajnana. This happiness and knowledge together is registered. That is the character of that absolute brain that everybody can feel. So this is already explained, that Vedic way of looking at it. And Upanishad talks about how this is convinced, how this is reasonable. So naturally, the explanations of what is mind will be available. This is relevant. What is mind actually is available with Upanishads or other spiritual works and all. Most of the, I think, spiritual books, it is written about mind. But from the Upanishad only comes, even when we talk about Bhagavad Gita and all, where mind is explained very well. Mahabharata, mind is explained very well. But those things are directly taken from what is explained in Upanishad. So Upanishad gives a way to understand what is absolute from the plane of mind. Here, the understanding of mind is required in mind. So this is what we are looking for. Where do you get explanation? What is a normalcy? Because we are also dealing with mind. So we need then some works of Shankaracharya like Brahma Sutram and all. You get explanations of mind. What is mind? So that we need. So these two things, what is absolute, how we conceive that absolute, how you drain back to one point, then come down, and with this connection, how you look at this world, how you explain this physical world. This is our concern. Other things are not our concern. How you explain this world without antagonizing this understanding. So that explanation comes from philosophies like all these Shat Darshanas. Out of Shat Darshanas, I think we are well connected to Sankhya. People may differ, but still I feel Sankhya philosophy is closely connected to most of the Shastras in India, where I'll try to make it very brief. Your concern is everybody wants to know everything in this universe. Everything has to be known. Whatever you see new, you want to know what is it. If you know it, then you can utilize it for your happiness. That's the purpose. So here we want to know what is the body. If you know it, you can deal with the body in such a way that it does not harm you. I can keep happy if I know what is my body. So for that purpose, the physical world has been explained. Same methodology is applied to understand what is your body. Because you are a part of the universe. This is how the olden days the body was explained. To interact with the external world, see Homo sapiens have a way of five-dimensional way of looking for everything. That is only option because you have only 5 advanced senses, Panchendriyas, with which you are connected to the external world. So if you study what is external world, what is the constitution of the external world, you have only 5 outlets to get in touch with the external. Because there is 5 outlets and mind is connected, you try to know what is it. Whatever knowledge is created with the external constitution of the external world, it will be basically of 5 varieties. Whatever knowledge is created, it will be basically of 5 varieties. And these 5 varieties of knowledge regarding the constitution of the universe is known as Panchamahabhutas. So, Panchamahabhutas are the constitutional identity of the physical world. Naturally, they are the constitutional identity of your body also. And they are not limitations because humans have most advanced 5 sense organs. So each sense organ can have an extended experience of what is similar to that. That is known as a Panchamahabhuta. It's not an element. We also must understand when we say Bhuta, just like chemistry say this is a chemical, where you underline that matter. Here, Buddha also have a different meaning. Buddha also, in Sanskrit, we know that it means created. Buddha means created. What is that is created? You create a knowledge of that element. It's not element. You create a knowledge of that element, and the knowledge is lying with yourself. This is where we need to understand what is told in Vedas. Absolutely, you are trying to create knowledge in each and every second of your life, and knowledge is registered deep inside. So when we say Panchamahabhuta, it's not the element we are stressing, it's the knowledge of element when you pursue the world through the methodology of Sankhya. Same word when you pursue through physics, it is different. So when you say Panchamahabhuta, it is your understanding, it's your knowledge with which we say this is Prithvi, this is Jala, this is Agni, Vayu, Akasha. You understand? And that Buddha, 5 Buddhas make up the body, 5 Buddhas make up the universe. Still, this is also not something which we are going to use in our practice, but an awareness of how this theory came into practice, that much is needed. Otherwise, Vadapitta Kapha, nobody will believe. And from this structural understanding of 5 Buddhas, still we are not concerned with the structure. We are concerned with what is happening to these Buddhas when you talk about life. Life for a period of maybe 100 years, 90 years, somebody is living. What is happening to this Panchabhuta structured body? This is our concern. Structure you can see with sense organs, as I told you. Inside this combined structure, what is happening is a functional plane. So you have a Panchabhuta body just born at the time of birth. What happens to that? Or to the whole universe, what is happening? We see the gross plane of the universe, how that is getting destroyed. So for that matter, any matter which is found in this universe is getting destroyed after some time. So what do you mean by that span, lifespan? What happens to the body? With regard to Panchamahabhutas, this is our concern. So we say this is the functional understanding of the structure. Structure is Panchamahabhutas. We are not dealing with that in your day-to-day practice. Functionally means, and the deeper plane of these Buddhas, what is happening every second of your life. This is our concern. So this is the understanding which applies to the universe also. So this is where we understand this age of growth, age of maintenance, age of disintegration is inevitable to every being in this universe. Hridayam nadi vartate. We say that everything is subjected to these 3 changes. Where the initial stage it is a growing age, growing in size, middle age is maintenance, sustenance, then last stage is a degenerative phase where the structure is going down. So what do you mean by that? In general language, we say no srishti sthiti sampara. Growth, maintenance, and disintegration is there for everything in this world. That is what you say, the change of the world. This world is always changing. This is what we mean by the change. Internally, deeply, this is what is happening. To the body also, this is our concern. So, initial stages, your size is increased. Among the 5 Buddhas, what can be increased? Nothing but Prithvi and Jala. So they are groups. Sthulam. Later stages, when Vayu and Akasha are increased, size will be going down. It's very clear. In the middle age, it is Agni prominent with Jala. Heat prominent with Jala. That is how it is happening. So when these changes are happening over a period of, say, for 90 years, you cannot start these changes at the age of 90. You need to start it at the time of birth itself. At the time when the body is born, you start disintegrating that. That's why when Jwara is explained, we say, Janmandayor Mohamaya. At the time when you totally die out, it is Jwara. At the time when you are born, it is the beginning of Jwara. Okay. So this disintegration process starts at the beginning itself. And every second of your life, it is there. If you just take it 90 years, 90 days, 90 months, 90 seconds, split of a second also if you divide into 3, one structure is increased, other is going down. So this is happening. That's why in dosha we divide into Nattam, Dinakam, Madhyam. Every day or night or even the time you take food, you can expect these kind of changes. What is happening to that? So this is what we are observing closely. What are the changes happening into the body? How these changes can be made smooth. You cannot prevent it. This is inevitable. You need to die out naturally. So as long as the degeneration is natural, you don't react. When the degeneration happens at an earlier pace, you react. So that earlier or a higher speed, when the disintegration happens, it leaves a structure damaged easily. And that is what is subsequent reaction is known as the disease. So disease is also a process where the body is damaged at an unwanted time or an earlier period. Because it is asatmya, you are not familiar to that, you react. You try to restrict. You try to come out of that phase and put it into a normal way of disintegration. So this is what is happening. So we should understand what we mean by the growth, what we mean by the maintenance, what we mean by the disintegration. So we know that this is happening to Panchabhuta constitution. When you say growth, Prithvi or Jala is adding. When you say disintegration, Vayu Akasha is not. So each element in this world, like physics and all says, we try to learn that subject, try to learn the matter. And actually we are learning the characters and properties reflected by the matter, and then we claim that matter is. That applies to our science also. So Panchabhuta we are trying to learn through the properties reflected by them. Because these properties are added, diluted, like that. So we are trying to understand what are the basic properties which are subjected to variations in every second or every day, like that. So the properties of this combined from Prithvi and Jala is known as Kapha dosha. Properties, the combined set of Vayu Akasha is known as Vata dosha. Properties of Agni with Jala is known as Pitta dosha. So we must understand that dosha concept is functional, not structural, and the Panchabhuta concept is more structural, more grooves. Dosha concept is more functional, but plain. You understand it because it is deeper. You need to start feeling from the plane of mind. When you say your body is nidha, we don't mean oily. We mean a feel where you don't feel dry. Okay, that is the meaning of snigdha. So optimum snigdha feel is felt in the mind. When you feel dry, you feel it. After fever and all, generally strong fever, you feel hot for some more days. Temperature is normal. Where do you feel that heat? It is feeling in the mind. The moment you say guna, you are dealing with the mind. You are dealing with the plane of mind. So we are trying to understand what is happening to the gunas of this Buddha-dominated body. So there are subtle changes. Kapha is dominant basically with snigdha, and your body is basically snigdha. Healthy structure is snigdha. This is maintained very well. You are supposed to be very healthy, and your effort is to maintain that throughout your life. That's why we say your food should be madhura pradhana, because it is a snigdha basically. Snigdha naturally associated with Shida, nature of Jala, is not cold exactly, where you don't feel hot. So Shida is there, provided there is a minimum heat, optimum heat on the other side, which comes from Agni Bhuta. So one side there is a heat, and you don't feel cold. So Shida is also there, like we say warm water. Water is cold, but it is warm. Both can stay together. So Pitta is identified in terms of Snigdha and Ushna, whereas Kapha is identified in terms of Snigdha and Shita. They coexist. So if this Snigdha Shita is maintained properly, you are maintaining your structure throughout the life. The principle of Rasayana is evolved from this understanding. Rasayana, the best Rasayana is Amalagi. Amalagi is Snigdha Shita. Sufficiently snigdha. It's not like too much snigdha, like a milk, but it is optimum snigdha, and it's not hot shita. So this is properly introduced. You are nourishing all the 7 forms. So that understanding comes from what you mean by kapha pitta. Okay, so we understand that kapha pitta vata are nothing but the functional properties of this Panchabhuta structure. And when you say functional properties, they indicate the changes happening in your body every second. This is what is happening in every second. Whether you have disease or not, these are subjected to changes until this is totally disintegrated. Okay, so Kapha, Pitta, Vata are functional planes, not structural planes. When we try to understand Ayurveda independently, you need a condition in that. So as long as humans have this 5-dimensional way of looking out, methodology of observation, this Panchabhuta theory can never be achieved. You can't make it 6, you can't make it 4. As long as 5 Buddha theory is existing, Tridosha theory also can never be touched. Okay, Tridosha indicates the changes happening in the body. So if you are closely observing, you can understand the changes happening in normalcy. You can understand the changes happening in diseases. You can understand the changes happening when you are doing treatment. This is what is happening in Ayurveda. So what I wanted to make here is that we study all subjects. Learning anything is not a problem. But if you are learning sincerely, you need to ensure that you create a clarity in it. Whatever subject is learned, it should be clear. We say prasannatmendriya manaha, swastha lakshanam. Okay, prasannatmendriya manaha. It means mind has to be clear, indriyas have to be clear. So indriyas are clear means the way you look, the way you hear, all sense organs will do their functions with clarity. So your vision should be very clear. You look to what is exactly needed. So that is a clarity of sense organ. Like what Arjuna did in that time. All others could not locate a parrot sitting on a mango tree, but Arjuna could do it because everything was green. He could see only the peak of a parrot. He could see only the beak, not the green bird. Because of the beak is red, he identified as a parrot. That means eyes have clarity, because eyes will be going to what exactly is needed. That is known as clarity of Indriyas. Clarity of mind means mind is having only one function, it's only thought. So clarity of thought is clarity of mind. So when you learn, the mind is very clear. Mind has to be thinking about any topic in a very clear way. Teaching also, it has to be very clear, where mind also gains clarity. So what happens? Prasannatmendriya mana. Prasannam is clear, like clear water. You also become a clear person. Indriyas are clear, mind is clear. Whatever you learn also will be very, very clear. This is how book says. We also need that kind of a clarity when we learn with Ayurveda. What I wanted to convey is that the Tridosha theory is reasonable and most intellectual, I say. And it is a theory which can never be altered. Something which stays forever, you need to say it is realistic, is truthful. As long as humans are there in this world, you cannot change the Tridosha into 4. It is 3 doshas. So this, we need to convince the student that this is something with which you are going to work. You study the body, you study the disease, you study the medicine, you study the treatment. Everything is based on this 3 dosha. So this 3 dosha aspect has to be very well introduced, made very, very clear. Then only you can go to what is disease, what is management, what is dravya, even dravya. Because in this, this is the most important part I wanted to say. This is not against learning any other subjects. You can learn whatever is there in CCM curriculum, there is no problem. Whatever is outside the curriculum also you can learn. Provided whatever you learn should be clear, so that that kind of a knowledge cannot be a intellectual blockade in understanding Ayurvedic principles. It's only requirement. The way you learn anatomy and physiology, it's very clear. That much clarity we need in understanding our theories also. Then there is no problem. Unnecessary mixing is a big issue, because whatever knowledge is easily available, people think that that is more reasonable. So the typical example I used to say whenever I used to take dissection, when it comes to the back and all, or vertebra and all, even first year I used to talk about L4, L5. So we understand what is a bone, what is a disc, what is a prolapse, how it is compressing femoral or sciatic nerve, and all, what are the implications. So how that is happening and what is the solution. So naturally people say you need to do some oil application on that part. When that understanding is converted, because you study fundamental Sutrasana, so when that is converted into our own way, you can incite the students actually. You can incite the students to talk about what happens according to our Shastra. To our Shastra, we say disc is dehydrated. Even modern terms, they say disc is dehydrated. So that becomes thinner. Space between the vertebra becomes bigger. So then they are vulnerable. Vertebra is supported with vertebral ligaments, then back muscles. So all those things are nourished by the general system. When those structures become weak, you don't give nourishment properly. That's why it is degenerated. So muscles or ligaments you strain at the yoga. You sit continuously and not, or you take heavy weight. Like that, you are straining, strama, you are straining. That area becomes weaker and gradually it becomes tighter, so that the supply to that part is not proper. That movement is not proper. That structure, ultimately there is a degeneration. The result is a sciatica. So what is natural way of dealing with that? How you can reverse this process? Even if it is considered as a vata condition, which is reflected by the dryness of that area and difficult mobility of further conduction downwards, movement for you. How you can make those areas more unctuous. This is your concern. The backbones or back muscles have to be made smooth. Is it possible to directly induce something? Or you need to do something on the low back alone? Then it's not Ayurveda. It's not Ayurveda. How you can induce unctuousness, snigdha into the body. This is your concern. It is directly taken into L4, L5 very easy. But it never happens. Your way is, one is the entire tok that first year student should know. Entire tok is Vadasthan. It means that is the most porous part. It is porous, first thing to enter the body will be air. So tok is Vadasthanam. Togindriyam is Vadasthanam. So you need to do Abhyanga all over the body, even if it is a back tissue, neck tissue, or a knee problem in a serious condition. Throughout the body, you need to induce Snigdha. That's why Abhyangam throughout the body. Fine. This is Ayurveda. Second thing, how can you correct that dryness internally? Next is Pakvashayam is Vadasthan. Pakvashayam is a place where the food remains in a dry form. After extracting the entire Snigdha content of the food, food reaches in the dry form in the last part of the intestine, or you call it as Pakvashayam. So there is a minimum level of dryness maintained in Pakvashaya. If that dryness is increased, the dryness can be transferred to any part of the body. And wherever you strain too much, that part will be becoming weaker and with impaired functions. So the way you need to increase the unctuousness or reduce the dryness, you need to induce it into Pakvashayam. That's why Vasti. So through Vasti, you ensure that dryness in the Pakvashayam is reduced. Through Abhyanga, you ensure that the entire body is made unctuous sufficiently. And medicines are given with the same purpose. Rasnadi or Rasnayamnadi, they are all Snigdoshnam. We know that a first year student can understand. Vadasya Upakama Sneka Sweda Samshodhanam Mrudu. So you can understand you are inducing Snigdha and Ushna. Snekhanam and Swedhanam means induction of Snigdha and Ushna things. Because you visualize that inside body there is a Ruksha and Shita nature, Vaivaka. So opposite you are inducing, different ways you are inducing. So even a first year students can say that a better option for a low back pain is Sneha Sweda for all entire body, being for all the body, skin, supplementary to that on the head. You try to make the entire body dry, and then through the Vasti process, you ensure that further dryness is not spreading from the coast. So why Vasti is the drug of choice, a treatment of choice? Why Abhyangam is indicated every day? You understand, due to strain, all activities, you are exhausting the Snigdha content of the body. So dryness can be there from different angles. Abhyangam is essential thing to ensure that you keep your body Snigdha. So this much even a first year student can understand. Why do you wait for the final years to expect these things? So when you say something on the low back L4, L5 can be done, like a Kadivas alone, an oil application or a PGO on the low back alone. Your knowledge is prompted from the angle of anatomy. This is what I say. When you create clarity in Shastra, you don't have a doubt. Generally, public will ask, I have a low back pain, why do you do Abhyangam all over? Everybody will ask. So, but a physician should have a clarity in that so that you can explain how it is, what we are doing, what is expected. And the low back is a result of what is going on in the body. We all know that, Vadavyadi description, if you see Nidhanam Ashtamgam, you understand due to Tikta Ushna Kashaya, all these reasons, or Panchakarmas not done properly, Ayoga, Adiyoga and all, plus diseases like Gurumugham, Arshas, Pandu kind of diseases where you keep the Vata atmosphere inside the body. Nowadays, all these things are going unnoticed. You need to see what are the background atmospheres which are not considered as disease in allopathy, but for us there are big diseases like a Pandu or a Gurumugham or Arshas, Maharoga. They all present weakness in the body where Ruksha nature is there. Weakness, Daruksha means Vata, Ruksha nature is there. Then you are vulnerable to any Vata disorder. So when you try to see how you can reverse it, first you must understand what is the background atmosphere, which we call it as a disease. What is a syndrome which presents the continuous weakness of dhatus. Grahani is a Maharoga, where things are not absorbed, always there is a lack of snigdha content in the body. So, Ruksha nature in the body. So, you have to be concerned with that. So, without addressing that background, how can you induce further snigdha content? It will be ineffective. Then people say we tried Ayurveda, but it was not working. It's not exactly Ayurveda. It's the partial Ayurveda we are not trying. So what I wanted to convey is that when you talk something in the first year, we need to make an impression that this is a continuous knowledge. First year, third year, final year are not separate because government has made it separate parts. Departmentalization made it appear that they are separate. Or when you ask students ask questions like this, you say we learn it in final year or third year. That's not the way. We remember that it is a single book we are trying to explain. It's not in parts. Ashtamgam is a single book. It's a continuous book. It's a continuity of knowledge. And first year student also can talk about what happens in Chikitsa and all. Because entire things are abridged and presented in Sutras. You have Dravya, you have Chikitsa, basically. You have diseases like Kalasakam, Shujika kind of things explained well. How to deal with that. Dosha Chikitsa is there. Panchakarma is explained. Basic diseases are also indicated. What else you require? So first year student will be knowing it. And even otherwise, Shastra, as I told you, Shastra has a unique nature of bringing everything down to your level. This method of reduction and expansion is taken from Vedas. That's what I used to say. You can't comprehend everything about the body because it is innumerable. We also say dosha vishletion possibilities are innumerable. Anandyam taradamayo. Innumerable possibilities. How can you understand everything? You can't say this much vada, this much pitta, this much kaba very easily. Because that combination, permutations are innumerable. Possibilities are innumerable. In this world also, this world is a world of uncertainty. One cannot understand everything. So you must know how to comprehend your level of understanding, then expand it as and when needed. You must be comprehending it to the lower level, then expand it, like mathematics. We bring it down to our level of calculation. We'll do it 5 plus 5 is 10. With the same logic, you can replicate this when you say 5 lakh plus 5 lakh is 10 lakhs. Count it on the fingers. So same way, you bring it down to your level of understanding, then expand it as and when needed. This is very visible in Ayurveda because it's connected to Vedas. Rather, I say that this methodology of mathematical methodology of reduction and expansion is a direct connection with Vedas. And that's why it makes it similar to mathematics. So when you say Sutrasanam or when you say first sloka, first chapter, it must contain the essence of what is Ayurveda. Every aspect of that has to be touched. If Sutrasthana also reflects the entire Ayurveda, in fact, the Vadasya Upakuma Sneha Sveda Samshodhana. This part will be elaborated to be known as Vadavyadi Chikitsa. It's only difference. Vadavyadi Chikitsa is nothing but elaboration of what we learn in Vadasya Upakuma. So this is how the Shastra is explained. You start first part, then rest of the things will be, cannot be against what is explained here. It cannot contradict, and it is just an expansion of what is explained here. That's why we call it a suprasthana. In a capsule form, everything is mentioned. So somebody who studies suprasthana has to be given an impression that this will be expanded in your further levels of studies. This is not over with your examination. It's the main thing. This is a single book. So all what you learn later will be nothing but an expansion of what you learned in the first part. Okay. So when we create such an impression, then every stage you need to look back. So basic duty of a doctor, teacher, is to ensure that you give a coordinated knowledge, whether you are dealing with the fundamentals, whether you are dealing with the nidana, whether you are dealing with the chase. This is what is absolutely lacking in the college because it's a departmentalization. You ask somebody for taking nidana, you ask some questions about what to do in medicine. Definitely people say this is you learn only in final year. As an excuse, in final year you ask something about fundamentals, then you will say definitely you ask other department. That cannot be the situation. Teachers have already learned the entire Ayurveda, so you must be having, you must be able to give a connected knowledge, connectivity, coordinated knowledge of the entire subject, so that students also will feel that this is something you are working with your intellect. It's not a blunt knowledge. Through the thought process, you are working with that. Through the calculated moves, you make it a knowledgeable exercise, whatever you are doing in Ayurveda. So this is a requirement of the teachers, first phase. So if Ayurveda is introduced properly, theories of Ayurveda are made convincing, I think mostly students should be indulged in intellectual activities rather than going for sports and other things, spending too much of time for other activities. Because when they think that if this is not done properly, just to pass the exam, you need only 1 month time. Sometimes even teachers are not required also. Western countries and they do it for other subjects. Somebody is just learning it hardly just before the examinations, I think they can pass the exam. So that is not a criteria to understand whether they are convinced or not. So from the angle of students, we need to think, especially from the angle of the most intelligent students, the teacher has to think. And teacher's duty is to see that whether I am convinced or not about what I am going to do. First, I need to be convinced, then only I can convince others. So each part, each portion when we take, teacher has to look back, introspect and see that I feel convinced about that. Then you need to talk to students. Second thing, Ayurveda, we know that Shastra is, especially Sanskrit, we know that it has a Shabdartha and Bhavartha. Every word. We are stuck with mostly with the Shabdartha. Translations, we are comfortable. But what you need is the Bhavartha. What you need is Bhavartha of what is explained. That means the author wanted to convey a message using Sanskrit. You cannot stuck up in Sanskrit. It's only a language. So through language, you need to go to the meaning that exactly the author wanted to convey. So that always you must be clear. What is that you wanted to convey through this? Then only you can say this is the exact meaning of Shastra. Because Sanskrit has two planes. One is direct meaning, another one is an implied meaning, where you can exactly convey what is there in your mind. So that is important. So teacher has to be first convinced about Shastra, then only he can put it. These kind of knowledges can be put very easily. And since you are learning through the plane of mind, it needs a continuous contact with students, continuous intimacy with the students, so that a teacher can effectively convey this message of Ayurveda. Olden days, we know that because Shastra is having this kind of a nature, logics and reasoning are needed to convince the mind. I think olden days, student will be permitted to see the treatment first. You move with the teacher for some time and see that, oh, diseases are getting cured. Then only you feel convinced, oh, this is something working. Then medicines are introduced to you. Then diseases are explained to you. Then the theory is explained. So the reverse methodology of learning was there in the olden days. First few years, a teacher will not be talking about a guru, just to see, oh, this is working. You are convinced that disease can be cured. Then medicine part or disease are gradually introduced. This worked because the disease was like this. Then finally, oh, this this is how it is understood, this is how it is working. Then if you coordinate, it could be easily understood. This exercise we do in mathematics, you add two numbers to check whether it's correct. You can delete that, you can do a reverse exercise to see that answer is correct. You multiply, check it, you divide it and confirm whether it's right or not. Ayurveda also was learned in olden days like this. So that is what I wanted to convey. One more thing I would like to say is, I have heard from Vasudevan sir and all, many of you will be knowing that olden days, Arantampura, Pumuli, used to say that Charaga, it requires 12 years to learn Charaga. Okay. It's actually learning or understanding, it's not reading. It's a question to teachers, whether I understood it or not, it is my privilege, it's my right. If I want satisfaction, what I'm doing. Nothing to do with others. You can't blame me. My teachers are not taught like this. My institution was not like that. That and all is excuses. If I know it, I know it. That's all. No excuses. So you need to seek it, the knowledge, if it is not there. So Kumuli used to say Charaga needs 12 years to be completely learned. In that context, we say Purvartham, Uttarartham. In few months, we teach Charaga Samhita and all. So I always used to see how futile it is. Somebody is interested in Charaga Samhita. He can learn it further with the help of somebody, or he can learn it and spend a lot of time with that. Then you learn, definitely. If you are trying to understand it repeatedly, you will learn it. So a Samhita like this big one, you need a lot of time. Still, you don't understand many things from Charaga Samhita. So compared to Charaga Samhita, Ashtamgam is a smaller work. So I say even Ashtamgam itself, we are not able to understand completely. Why we talk about Charaga? So to my opinion, if we can stick to one Samhita properly, the learning process would have been more sincere. In a recent conclave webinar on revising the CCM syllabus and all, Krishna Kumarji initiated a program in which also I mentioned the same thing. We all talk about I learned Ashtamgam, I read Ashtamgam and all. If you sincerely mean that this has to be taught, this has to be learned, even one Samhita I think is sufficient. Others can be kept as a reference to understand that. So just by telling that just turn to Susuda, Charaga and all without knowing it completely is a useless exercise. This is what I understand. So if at all there is a possibility, this is possible. CCM will say many things. We all know. Shalyatandra, same syllabus throughout India. What is practiced in BHU, what is practiced in Kerala and all, everybody knows. We also prepared a big note on Shalyatandra. When I was the first batch BMS student. So we thought Shalyatandra is a full surgery. Hamilton Bailey surgery book we translated. We made a note out of it. And this book was, I think, circulated for nearly 20 generations by different teachers working with me. It was a complete surgery book where surgical diseases are supposed to be learned. Whereas in North and all, it is surgery which is learned. We talk about surgical books, understanding surgical diseases properly, and wherever it is needed. In graduation level, even MBBS, they are not supposed to do surgery. No? So BMS level also, you know surgical diseases, which stage you need to refer to surgery people, like yeah, that kind of a knowledge was actually mentioned. So college to college, that teaching methodology can differ, but ultimate purpose is to ensure that we create classical physicians, and that exercise need to be continued over next generation also. It's not that we are just stopping here. When such people come up as teachers or physicians, next generation is having a better, brighter future. So I think time is also getting up. Let me conclude with it, because if you talk like that, you can't stop about all these things. One more thing I would like to mention: in '92, when I was a teacher in Coimbatore Ayurveda College, I think we were the first people to conduct a national seminar on teaching methodologies. A 3-day seminar was conducted. Most prominent teachers of India were present. Nearly 200 people participated. And we in fact made 9 groups based on subjects to understand what is the difficulty in teaching and all. And that most prominent was a group on fundamentals. Samhidas at that time. It was fundamentals converted into Samhita, I think. Then we had a lot of people from all over India, including R.S. Singh, kind of was Vice Chancellor of PHU earlier, and such people, or P.V. Sharma, kind of people. Then from Kerala, I think we had our respected Agnesh Sir participated in that, in which the same issue was discussed at length and breadth, where most of the teachers were telling that they are not able to convince the students about Tridosha theory. So as a student, this was my requirement. As a teacher, this was my requirement. And I was exposed to that. I was actually in the organizing of that seminar. I was not participant, but I used to listen to their classes and all. So still that issue continues. We just try to convince the Tridoshas. Naturally, we have to take the help of other sciences to convince them. We know very clearly it doesn't make a big sense, because it will not work in the Chikitsa part. When it comes to the Chikitsa part, any kind of explanation with the help of modern science will be insufficient to make a proper Chikitsa, unless and until you make clarity in your own Shastra. Whereas other knowledge, modern knowledge and all, has to work as a complementary understanding, not as a burden, a complementary understanding. I think then that is a basic duty of the teacher. The teacher has to have a open mind to see that whether you are convinced or not. Then he must be targeting the intellectual group of the classes, so that the whole class will have that intellectual nature gradually spreading. Intellectual people have to be targeted, they have to be satisfied. And I always used to say 10 to 4 is not the actual learning plan. It's only meant for the syllabus to be covered. If interested people are there, it must go beyond 4 o'clock. Not naturally interested students will pursue that knowledge formulation mechanism. Introduction to Ayurveda is a must, where you should have a convincing, reasonable, logical way of introducing Tridosha theory, because entire Ayurveda is based on that. And any science will be working based on the theories. Theories are not understood, science will not be further improvised. So you need the theory as the main thing. Practicals will be naturally introduced to that if theory is there with you. Okay, with these much words, let me conclude. I am open for further discussions. Please feel free to ask anything about this kind of what is a learning mechanism. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jayakrishnan sir, for the very insightful talk, probably. The traditional method of teaching, learning is actually moving along with the method of thinking of the teacher. Shastra, it is actually learning from the mind, from the mental plane, when science speaks of learning from the physical plane. More than physical, what Tridosha requires is the logical and reasoning sense, which makes it more near to Shastra. And it is logic and reasoning that is basis of any kind of Shastra. And before convincing others, it's very important that we ourselves get convinced. And for anyone to understand Shastra, it becomes very important for us to have the deepest level of experiencing the material or the matter that we are speaking of. And that matter, once we experience in the deepest level, it becomes a part of us. Then there is no need of anything else to speak. Rather, the person gets convinced when we do what we are supposed to do. I think these were the just rather billion-dollar sentences that you have spoken for us. Now, the session is basically open for discussion. Any of our delegates would like to communicate or ask something with Jayakrishnan sir, please unmute and can speak. I think we have our senior Vinod Kumar sir, who is an experienced teacher among the audience. Dr. G. Vinod Kumar sir, who was retired as Professor, Department of Panchakarma from Government Ayurveda College, Trivandrum. Vinod sir, can you please say a few words on this session and your opinion? Sir. Vinod sir.
He is muted.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
sir. You're audible, sir. You're audible, sir.
Dr. Ramya.
Sir.
Yeah, it was a very convincing lecture by Dr. Jayakrishnan. The main point which you highlighted from his speech, first we convince everything, then only we teach. Then only the students will also convince. And all the experiences with the things what we are studying is very important. That's also he highlighted. So sometimes I feel the Atma of teaching is lacking in nowadays sometimes. So we have to find out that how to convincing a student and the level of the student also. First of all, the level of the students we have to assess. As Dr. Jayakrishnan sir also talked about that, the level 10% may be very intelligent and others. But all the students must understand what we communicate with them. And very slowly, and it will not be a show of the knowledge of the teacher. We have to come to the level of the students and very patiently try to convince the Shastra. This is not very easy, I think, with experience, with discussions with acharyas, like very senior teachers like Jayakrishnan sir, all these people, we can acquire that. But a very brilliant faculty, young faculties in our colleges, definitely I admit that. But if you understand these things also from the all the acharyas, you will become a very good teachers. Thank you, Dr. Ramya.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Dr. Ramya, we have a participant from Russia. Mr. Dennis is there. Whether Dennis he want to ask something, he can. Dennis?
Please.
Dennis from Russia.
Mr. Dennis, we are happy to have you here. We'll be happy if you could interact.
Thank you so much for your attention. And I'm so happy to listen deep knowledge of Ayurveda.
Jayakrishnan sir, I have something to ask you. Thank you, Mr. Janice, for your comments. Jayakrishnan sir, throughout your presentation, you were speaking about an experiential level of understanding of the science. And we are all convinced at this point of time that after probably 5 to 8 years of teaching, that the methodology that we follow is not 100% proper and we need something else. But the reality remains that we are all, right from our schooling, as you told, the methodology of reductionism, we are prepared for probably an MBBS course with learning more of physics and chemistry, coming and getting introduced to a methodology that is entirely different. And by the time we get convinced about the methodology and the sense of the Shastra that has been told, even though, I mean, only if we are too much eager to know it more and more, it becomes probably a few years of even teaching. So as far as you are concerned, I mean, what's your advice to probably the younger generation of teachers, so that at this point of time, with the limitation, you know what is available for us within our own limitation. We have our text, we are ready to teach our students, and we are ready to study the way we can. So what because throughout your studies, you were speaking about the importance of learning Shastras, Darshanas, Sankhya's, Darshanas like Sankhya and Upanishad, probably to understand Ayurveda to a greater extent. So what's your basic advice to this generation that we need to do this so that you can become a better teacher?
Okay. Yeah, but I think any point of time, somebody is very much disturbed that I didn't understand it properly. But if that question hangs in somebody's mind, then you will not leave it. If that is very strong, you call it as what to say, jitnyasa. If you feel that this is not complete, the way I understood is not complete, still I have to know. That is the beginning of this journey actually. At any age it can happen. You just start with the Ragadi Roga. I think how many people are convinced about it. We don't think Raga is the Roga. So if you think, oh, this I should be very clear, then you need to take it back to these little philosophies. You don't have to be an expert philosopher, but you must understand what is told in philosophies. The overall connection of these Vedas, Upanishads, or philosophies, probably focusing on legal philosophies, then I think you get a methodology of how you approach each and everything. That is how you are evolving. You're not going to become an expert in philosophy. Somebody is having an interest more than that, it is fine, but you get an understanding of how you can create your own methodology of observation. So if that is created, then each level of your learning, whether you are a teacher of Samhita, you are a teacher of Yoga Vidya, you are a teacher of Panchakarma, this is what you are learning. This is what you are applying. You need to create your own methodology. Vyasa prapyade drishti, karma siddhi prakash. Karma siddhi prakashini drishti is methodology of observation. This is what you are going to create. Your own way of putting things into Ayurvedic perspective. Any disease you get for treatment, you need to put it into our own language. Then only you can decide reasonably about the medicine. So that methodology of thinking you need to create from this basic method of philosophy. At least one of the philosophy like Sankhya would be very good enough to have it. So teachers should spend some time to understand what is it actually. Second thing, as I told you, any subject when you take, whether it is a modern subject or Ayurvedic subject, how can you translate that information into Ayurvedic methodology? This is your concern. Ayurvedic mode, how do you translate any word or any idea which you get from the modern angle? How can you reasonably convert it into an Ayurvedic mode? This you need to take an exercise instead of just correlating things. I used to say in anatomy and all, no, Brihat Sharinam and all, you get what is it? Brihat Peshi, pectoralis major. You feel comfortable talking about pectoralis major. Brihat Peshi is more difficult. Why do you talk like that? Even if it is told in Sanskrit now, it doesn't make any difference. Pectoralis major is pectoralis major. Purpose of learning that, that is what we need to look into. Just converting into Sanskrit is not enough. When you talk to somebody else to convince, this is also a major issue. When we talk to the Westerners who come with a blank mind, Indians are not like that. Indians have a always they are happy with a half-baked knowledge. If you get 50%, we say we got 100%. We don't pursue. Westerners are slightly different, to my opinion, and they don't have any kind of a knowledge of Indian systems. So even the word Panjabhuta, Akakosha and all are very, very alien to them. So if you talk to them, try to convince them, then you understand, we don't know actually. When they come, things are more exposed. That is the issue. So when we think we got 50%, we and wrongly think we got 100%. That we need to introspect and see whether I got it properly or not. How should I pursue? This should be the primary concern of a teacher. Instead of just completing the syllabus, that I think any subject, if you take 3-4 years, you become a little expert in that topic. Then you don't have to spend too much of time on that. Whereas to learn to become an expert in this topic, you need to learn the entire other topics also. Even if you are expert in fundamentals, you need to learn Nidana Chikitsa, then only you become an expert in Ayurveda. So a teacher has to understand that he has studied the entire Ayurveda or Ashtanga completely. So he must have a total knowledge of entire Ashtanga. From that background only, you take either Nidana or either talk about fundamentals with the background of entire knowledge, whereas student has not got it. So with the total holistic understanding, this is what you say holistic. Whether you got the whole picture of Ayurveda in a nutshell, see, this will be clear everywhere. When you say Raga is disease, entire diseases are brought down to one point. When you say Jora is the only disease, Jora is the biggest disease, Jora is seen in all other diseases, there is no other Jora beyond, no other disease beyond Jora, different words you talk. So entire disease process is brought down to Jora. Then it is expanded. Madhavendana clearly says other diseases are meant for lower IQ people. Doesn't mean that you don't have to learn, but if you learn Jora very clearly, other diseases will be understood in a better way. That's the meaning. So you reduce everything to Jora. Chikitsa, you say, what you mean by Chikitsa? Charaka says, Kayo Agni Tasya Chikitsa Kaya Chikitsa. How do you take it into one word like this? This is what I say, the comprehension method of reduction into your level, then you expand. Agni Chikitsa is entire Jora Chikitsa. Agni Chikitsa is entire Jora Chikitsa actually. But if you know this is what you are doing, when you say disease, this is what you are doing. When I say body, Snigdha, Shida and Agneya, it is just a way to comprehend to your level then you expand as and when needed. So just to have an overall picture of Ayurveda, this is what should be the idea of a teacher, because he has already covered the topics. So you should have a total understanding. This is what we say holistic. From that background only, he will be dealing with each and every subject, then he will get a better quality. To have an overall picture of a Samhita, you must have a touch of philosophy, just like physics, chemistry is actually anatomy and all is nothing but a way of physics, how you deal with the physical world. You, from the gross plane, you divide and see what is there in the subplane. So you are familiar to physics, so you don't question. So that should be the background atmosphere, nothing but philosophies. That is one philosophy. If you try to learn by yourself, you get a overall picture of what is Ayurveda. From that, whatever subject you are dealing with, you must be always aware that I should have a total knowledge of it. From that, whatever is needed to the students you are giving. So whenever they ask for questions, you should be able to connect it. It gives an impression that this is a continuous learning. First year and second year are not different. With the examination, this is not over. This knowledge you need to pursue, take it to the next levels, definitely. So such a feeling has to be created. That instills a lot of confidence among the students. So whoever is very much interested, he should be allowed to pursue it to the maximum. Everywhere it may not, every student may not be that possible, but even then, if you give a overall picture of what you are going to do, some people will be confined to that. You know that there are a lot of physicians treating very well, they may not be able to explain, but they know how to. It's just like these horses having a cover, no, for the eyes. They know only how to look at the doshas, nothing else. That is enough. For some people, that is enough. Now, system has proliferated. Teachers have to communicate more with not students alone, other people, contemporaries, other sciences or scientists. Many areas this is spread, so you need to communicate in a convincing way. It's not a question of classes alone. And even public health, Ayurveda people are getting involved. So you need to have a total understanding of everything. Then only you can involve, you can communicate, you can convince other people. This becomes very relevant. We know that, in the context of COVID, why Ayurveda people are not actively involved, passively involved, not actively involved in dealing with the disease, where there is no option in allopathy. You must think of it. There is no option allopathy. Still, other systems are not actively involved. In acute conditions, you deal with it. There is a fever, there is a vomiting, there is a diarrhea. Why don't you try Ayurveda? That needs a lot of confidence. Especially in our field, acute conditions, we are not that much exposed. We are not that much confident. To deal with acute conditions, you need 100% clarity in your science. You get a chest pain, to rule out that this is not related to heart, you need 100% clarity in the cardiac related conditions. To say that this is Vayu, you give a Vayu Gulya or a Dharyadikashtan, Dhanvantran pills to reduce that acute condition, that much clarity you should have about what has happened in the body in terms of Vayu. So because this is lacking acute conditions, in general, we are not dealing with acute conditions. Chronic condition, you have enough time to deal with that, you deal. So acute condition, we are lacking because we lack 100% clarity in that. Just to say that this is Vayu creating trouble, Vayu has come from this angles in this person, give this medicine for Vayu. You need immediate calculations inside, provided you have a clarity of thought in the Shastra. This is what I say. Then your thoughts are not disturbed with other thoughts, especially other subjects. So you get clarity, you focus, you get answer, you do it, and then you are dealing with acute conditions, you need that much clarity. Chauryam Ashu Kriya Krishnam Shastram Asveda Vebadu Asammohascha Vaidyascha Shastra Karmani Shastri. Asammohascha Vaidyascha means you cannot have a perverted knowledge on that spot. This is asammoha. Moham is a wrong knowledge, wrong understanding. You should have accurate understanding, especially in acute conditions. So we fail mostly because there is a lack of clarity in our theory. So we must be able to think only in terms of that. But suppose you are I was exposed to that kind of atmosphere, especially when I was in Coimbatore, Mangale. Nothing else is available. You get any kind of emergencies, even a snake bite or a fracture kind of things come to us. No other facilities available. So whatever is needed, we need to do it, and it has been very successful. So if you are exposed to that kind of an atmosphere, automatically you'll have to do it. But we have a lot of other facilities, better refer to them, and easily we just leave that. If you are very serious in dealing with that, you create 100% clarity. Then you deal with acute thing also. Since it is lacking, authorities are not convinced about our capacity. Shastra has it. Our capacity, they are not convinced. So they don't give us acute conditions. That's it. So we need clarity in different levels. People have to pursue their, I say, learning. See, learning is a process where you have something to be learned. That is a subject, that's a matter. Learning is happening through the contemplation, deep thought process of mind. There is an issue of who is learning. Okay, who is learning? Who is using the mind and the subject to be learned? So, if you make a complete knowledge, you need the subject to be learned, the process of learning through the mind, and the knowledge of who is learning. Then only the knowledge formulation mechanism is complete for any subject, any matter. So this understanding comes through the philosophy. When it is applied to Ayurveda, different occasions in Ayurveda also this is mentioned. We all know Rasayanam, Nitya Rasayanam is the best one. It's not a medicine. Treatment, cure, we know that Deshakalatma Vijnanam Sadguru Anulpati Samasera Vishesha Nijagandu Vikaranam Ulpanyanam Nijagandu Vikaras, prevention and Shanti. Cure also, this is the knowledge. Deshakalatma Vijnanam Yaga Pratnya Abhadana Indriyoga Samasana There's no medicine. So the way Atma Vijnanam is a knowledge about yourself. When you get a knowledge about yourself, when you understand what is the process of learning, from that plane only you try to understand a body, try to understand a disease, try to understand a medicine. If this part is not understood clearly, there will be a limit in understanding the outer things. This is the meaning of it. So when it is taken to absolute levels, even Jwara, you can see Karunardram Manashuddha, Sarva Jwara Vinasha. Through the mind getting pacified, the Sandapa can be gradually reduced. Or if that is not done, sometimes Jwara may cause. That's very clear. So you must have the understanding of the connection between mind and body. That happens only when you talk about Panchabhuta, beyond Akasha, what is there. That comes, there comes the philosophy. Chadurvimshati Purusha mentioned by Susuda naturally comes there. So we must have an understanding from a different angle also, without getting confined to what science says. Let it be there as independent knowledge. We go for another independent, separate knowledge. We agree that this existed much beyond the science. You know? Science is only 500, 600 years old. Much before that is there. So let us understand that this is independent knowledge. It's nothing wrong. Wherever you need the help of other science, you can take it. That knowledge can be added. There's no problem, provided you have a clarity of thought in your own self. Otherwise, other knowledge will be a burden. that comes first, then you don't think in these terms. So make a clarity in our Shastra. You can pursue, any teacher has to pursue, whether it is a clinical department, non-clinical department. So that's all for administrative purposes. The individual to get satisfied, you need a total understanding of this. And from that background, you need to teach different subjects. And to get a total understanding, you need a touch of philosophy. You need not confuse with all the seminars. Then you have to be a philosopher. You need not do that. But one philosophy, I think, which stands very close to this methodology of Shastra is Sankhya. Yeah, everything is there. I don't deny. Then and there you see all these philosophies. When you say Dharmartha Kama Moksha, Vedanta is also involved. I don't say that. The methodology is explained in Sankhya, and that would be standing very close to these things. But if that is generally understood, I think you get a better picture of all these things. Many occasions, one more thing I would like to mention, I don't know whether time permits, Manasika Yogas, as I just mentioned earlier, many places, Manasika Yoga, many colleges, it is not even taken. Yogas are left out. People say, just read it, you expect one question after. That's all. So, especially to talk about Manasika Yogas, just like physical diseases, you know what is the normalcy of the body, then only you understand the disease. That itself is lacking. About the mind, it's very clear. Philosophies only talk about mind. If you know what is the normalcy of mind, then only you can talk about how that is getting deviated. And mind is not explained in Ayurveda. Mind is explained in philosophies, rather spiritual. As I told, typically in Upanishad or Brahma Sutra kind of things, it is explained. So without knowing the normalcy of mind, how can you think of what will be the deviation of in a disease? So that knowledge will be always incomplete, and we will pursue all the physical dealings like Panchakarma treatment consistently in mental diseases. Sometimes it can change, sometimes it may not change. We don't know what is. So if you get a understanding of what is mind, you need to go beyond idea. Then only this disease can be explained. Same thing applies to other Pitaka also, because Panjabhuta understanding is connected to philosophies. So if that is not convincing, Pradosha is not convincing, then it will be reflected in each of your words when you talk about Ayurveda. So very intelligent student will understand that it is incomplete. They may not question. Good students will not question, but they understand it's not sufficient, it's not complete. So teachers are to pursue with a knowledge system, knowledge formulation mechanisms. Ancient times, I say it is 100% intellectual activity, complete activity in those days. They are not exposed to that. We must also strive for having such a teacher has to be a little, try to be little, what to say, intellectual. Then it will be appealing to the students. Then only they will listen to you very closely. Then they should feel that you are an expert of that. So for that you need a total picture of Shastra. To have it, there should be a connection with little philosophy. Then it will be, and that exercise of dealing with, for example, treatment. You cannot generalize. Each patient is a new patient then, because your possibilities are innumerable. You cannot say when the patient comes into the room, oh, this could be the medicine. Somebody is limping, I say surgery. It's not like that. Each case, when you start pursuing the background of Vada, medicine will be different. So we will not generalize things. Otherwise, mind will easily generalize. So should be open. It should be always looking back to see whether I understood or not. That should be the primary question. Then when you understand that I have not understood properly, as great Einstein said, that is the biggest knowledge teacher can have. There's nothing wrong in saying that I didn't follow it well. I will pursue it and I will take it later. There's nothing wrong with that. So teachers should have a total knowledge of Shastra, which is connected to Ekam Shastram Adhyayana, no? 6. My school college days, I think this is attributed to studying anatomy physiology, justifying that. But we know that Shastras are nothing but Shaddarshanas. Ekam Shastram Adhyayana, na Vidya Shastram. And it also has to be heard from different sources if you have to pursue it very, very strongly. Then you get a clarity in that. At a minimum, understanding is a must if you have to go deep into it. And a teacher has an option for that. Practitioners may not be looking into the book further, but the teachers will have to communicate not only with students, other levels of people also. So you need a better total understanding.
Thank you, sir, for again those insightful words. Definitely, we are inspired. We have been introduced to a different platform of understanding and learning Shastra from a very experienced teacher, and we are so thankful for that. So towards the end, as we all know, this would be the last session for the Gurumugham series that we have started 3 months back on June 11th. So it has been started with the organizational support of private Ayurveda College Teachers Organization and Ashtamgam Ayurveda Vidyapeetham. So I call upon Dr. Rahul R. Nair, President, Practo Kerala Unit, for the vote of thanks for today's session. Doctor, please.
Respected Dr. Jayakrishnan sir, principal of this institution, Dr. Narayanan Nambi sir, all my dear friends in Pacto. Sir, it is usually told that conversing with a wise man is equal to reading 1,000 books. We actually wind up this session of Gurumugham by conversing with you, a very wise, experienced teacher. Before my joining in this institution at Ashtamgam, I heard that you have been here for a program and you have inspired all of our teachers. Now, we, the members of PACTO, Private Ayurveda College Teachers Organization, through Kerala, has been benefited by your experienced lectures, sir. And I think the best takeaway message of this lecture is your statement that once the teacher is convinced, then only he can convince the students in the right way. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us for this long time, in spite of your busy schedule. And at this event, at this juncture, I will definitely thank my principal, Dr. Narayanan Nambi sir. This is for the very first time that a teachers organization is combining its efforts with a college to organize a wonderful lecture series, which has been started by Gurumugham sir, and now it is getting ended by the wise talk from Dr. Jayakrishnan sir. So, when we presented this idea, Narayan Nambi sir was equally supportive, and he has molded many of my ideas regarding this Gurumugham session. The inspiration behind this series, the energy behind this series is none other than Narayan Nambi sir. So I thank him wholeheartedly for being, I think he is the first principal in Kerala to have a connection with one of the teachers organization to organize one of the best lecture series during this lockdown period. And all the PACTO members who have been supporting us through this period for conducting this lecture series, and also all the speakers who has wholeheartedly supported with their experience, their knowledge, their vision, their wisdom. For all of them, from the depth of my heart, my organization, as well as on behalf of Ashtamgam, I thank all of you for active participation in this series. And once again, I bow and thank before Jayakrishnan sir for coming over here and delivering his words of wisdom. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
I also thank all the management, principal, Nambisar I know personally, and all the staff members and other teachers who listen to this very patiently this much time. I wholeheartedly thank you all of you. I'm very happy to be in interaction with especially teachers. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you, Vinod sir, for coming with us for the series. Thank you, Nambi sir. Thank you, Rajkumar, for the prayer. And thank you all dear teachers to be with us. So once again, on behalf of Ashtamgam Ayurveda Vidyapeetham, and on behalf of all of us, we thank wholeheartedly Jayakrishnan sir and all of those who have been with us for last 12 sessions. Thank you, and we hope these sessions would definitely make a better teacher out of us. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Stop.